Thank you so much for being here tonight. Now, I have been asked to start the evening off telling you about our athletic year. So you know what? I guess that's it. Have a nice evening. Just kidding. We've had a very special year, and although we haven't had the opportunity to have any team sports this year, a lot of athletic events did take place. We still had our annual Terry Fox run. However, it was by pod and not house. We cycled all of our students through multiple sports, but by pod instead of by team. So you know what? Our basketball players had to get on their skates and on the ice. Our hockey players got into the gym. The grade 10s took part in Mr. Lucas' Winter Warriors Challenge, and several senior students got the chance to play ball hockey versus the unbeatable staff team, which included Mr. Banerjee, Mr. Morovich, Miss Lynham, and a pair of Mr. Downies, and on a few occasions Mr. Greer. I'm not even sure if we ever lost any games. Anyway, I would like to congratulate the outstanding athletics department who, despite the challenges, managed to run a fun yet challenging athletics program. And now I'd like to turn it over to our fearless leader, our athletic director, Mr. Mike Morovich.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second annual Athletic Celebration YouTube premiere. Who would have thought at this time last May we would be gathering once again to celebrate the athletic endeavors of our students online? It is important to recognize the dedication, effort, and commitment that our coaches, teachers, and students have put into this past year. The unexpected but much appreciated outcome of this tumultuous year in athletics was the opportunity for many students to participate in sports and activities that they may have not had a chance to enjoy in a normal year. The athletics and physical education program continued with several adjustments. This year, our students at the high school level had the opportunity to experience several sports and activities. They ranged from broomball to spike ball to yoga. We enjoyed ping pong, badminton, and ball hockey. The students traveled to the arena for shinny hockey, lacrosse, and to the fields for ultimate, touch football, softball, and soccer. In the end, we managed to get some rugby done along with cross-country running. At the elementary level, the students managed to have a full year of PE. You cannot pull off an athletic program pivot without the support of your administrators. Many thanks to Brenda Montgomery for her multiple versions of schedules, restructuring of assessment grids corresponding to this year's activities. I'd like to thank the three heads of school, Kathy Funamoto for her support and insistence to keep students engaged in as many activities as possible given the unique circumstances. Mr. Sebastian Lajoie for his encouragement, enthusiastic support of new challenges at the middle school. I certainly believe we have become a spike ball powerhouse. At senior school, Mr. Banerjee brings his passion and a competitive spirit to athletics. He supported the students and participated in several classes throughout the 3 terms. Lastly, a huge thank you to Mike Downey for recognizing the need to maintain a comprehensive and enterprising athletic program. We managed to run an additional 50 basketball workouts, 7 weeks of additional athletic training, the return of the Power Hour, and over 300 additional hockey sessions on the ice at 7 grade levels. I'd also like to acknowledge the continued work of our athletics therapy staff, led by Sophie Drisdell. Dealing with injuries and recovery are instrumental in keeping our students active. This evening, we will take the time to honor students in our program from both past and present. Je suis très fier pour avoir l'opportunité d'annoncer qu'on va avoir une addition de 3 membres de la Temple de renommée sportive du Selwyn House. Finally, we will end the evening with the Sportsman's Guild induction. Post-premiere, you will be able to join us in 3 breakout rooms. Peter Govan, Mike Downey, and I will host a room each so that you can visit the Hall of Famers and celebrate their induction. Thank you for supporting Selwyn House School Physical Education and Athletics. Thanks to J.P. Trudeau and Claire Stewart for producing this evening. Sharon Cousins, Marianne Clordy, and Richard Wills for their work on the Hall of Fame. And finally, a huge thanks to the teachers and coaches who deliver this first-class program under the leadership of Peter Govan, Marty Boyle, Jean Pruneau, Matt Adonna, Matt Held, Anthony Luca, Chris LaPearl, and this year's Rookie of the Year, Carl Benoit. In addition to our coaches, I'd like to give a special thanks to our part-time athletic people, Brendan Munzar, Derek Widgington, and our intern, Phil Okinen. I'd like to thank them for their time and extra work to get things done. Congratulations to this year's graduates and Hall of Fame inductees. Stay active, stay fit, and see you next year live.
First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Morovich and the entire athletics team for putting together such an excellent program in these very challenging times. For most outstanding contributions to physical education in middle school, from grade 7, from 7-1, Elio Mendolia, Kai Deegan, and William Yared. From 7-2, Jack O'Keefe. From 7-3, Dylan Montour and Andrew Gertin. For grade 8, from 8-1, William Burks, Luca Bienvenu, and Jordan Singer. From 8-2, Benicio Macaulay and Jack Fraser. And in 8-3, Jack Salkovitz, Luca Kestenben, and Julian Harosh. Congrats, boys, and thank you for all your dedication to Selwyn House Athletics. Go, Griffins, go!
This year, during this extraordinary time, the Department of Physical Education and Athletics would like to recognize the boys in senior school who made an outstanding commitment and contribution to physical education and athletics. In grade 9, Henry Feltham, Mark Jelina, Jack Levine, Conrad Porches, Eric Zhang, Ken Zhao, Luca Ferry, Ethan Kimmel, Leo Liu, Keniston Edu, and James Downey. Outstanding commitment in grade 10, Thomas Bachman, Oliver Delplas, Victor Deng, Sam Elkis, Max Heidemann, Kevin Hugh, Matthew Capusta, Ben Kaufman, Anthony Karamarios, Ray Kui, James Saba, Boaz Shoskavitsky, Elliot Walter, James Wiseman, Simon Yao, Ben Yadid, and Jacob Schweisberg. This year, in grade 11, our recipients are George Adamopoulos, Matthew Homa, Matthew Salvati, Dean Farias, Thomas Plamondon, Gustav Scheibler, Michael Feldman, Matteo Farias, Guillaume Charbonneau, Marcus Lulick Deschanel, Oscar Ham, Eli Grant, Max Steinberg, Aidan Raus, Sean Bin, and Justin Kugler. These boys did not miss a class, both online and live. They fulfilled all their assignments and were enthusiastic in their approach to physical education.
Selwyn House Athletic Department Award. Typically, the Selwyn House Athletic Department Award is given to students who have gone above and beyond to contribute their time to assist coaches and teachers in the athletics department. This year's recipient is a student that went beyond the standard contribution to physical education during a period of change and uncertainty. He was a steadfast contributor to Selwyn's online physical education program since the beginning of the pandemic. From early April 2020, he attended all online workouts at 2 grade levels. Throughout the course of the hybrid schedule this year, he has not missed any time both in person and online. This year's recipient participated with enthusiasm regardless of the activity rotation and always encouraged his classmates. In addition to his dedication to Selwyn's physical education program, he continued to train rigorously with hopes for a hockey season that unfortunately did not materialize. This year's recipient had quick hands, a big heart, and was a pillar during the ball hockey rotation. Without further ado, the award winner is Thomas Plamondon.
Good evening, everyone. Coach Govan here. Congratulations to Julian, Hagen, and Sean on their election to our Hall of Fame. Julian was a natural rugby flanker because of his athletic abilities and his sense of anticipation, but he graciously accepted playing inside center his graduating year. Julian also inherited some of his grandfather's kicking skills, who once held the record for most goals in an international soccer game with 10 versus Russia in 1912. In 1974, as a grade 10 playing in our senior rugby team in the championship game versus Lindsay Place, Julian's kicking skills were on display. Scoring a try late in the second half, it fell on Julian's foot to tie the game. The only problem was that the kick had to be taken close to the sideline from about 30 yards away to swing it between the uprights. In other words, a pro kick, which he did to send the game into overtime. By now, there was quite a crowd as the high school game was being played before the men's Wales-Canada international match. A penalty was given, and Julian had an easy kick from only about 35 yards away on the hash marks. This kick clinched Selwyn's first ever sports championship. I'm obviously forever grateful to Julian, as his kicks in the championship allowed me to look pretty good as a new teacher. More importantly, we're friends. I would now like to introduce his Selwyn classmates, Eric Stevenson and Jim McLean.
Good evening, classmates, old boys, coaches, family, friends, and congratulations, Sean, Hagen, and Julian. You're the men of the hour. Julian, it's official. You remember those first few old boys events we used to go to? There'd be a table over in the corner. It'd be like the class of 1940 with these impossibly old men at the table. Well, we have become that class. So for your nomination, I'd like to provide our viewers with a little historical context. Growing up in Montreal in the late 60s and early 70s was really cool, unless you happened to play on a sports team for Selwyn House. We were the doormat of the city schools. We lost to everybody. Yeah, we could eke out a win against Sedberg or maybe Stansted, but against Montreal area schools, we got creamed. We lost football games by basketball scores and hockey games by football margins. But that began to change. Dr. Spears retired, and in came Alexis Trubetskoy with his new broom. And within 2 years, half the staff had either been fired or quit. And the athletic staff was changing too. Rob Waring, he had this funny little pipe that he kept on the dashboard of his van. And Peter Govan was always smiling, and he had bell bottoms, and he was only 6 years older than we were. And Gov took the senior rugby program, and he built Selwyn House, or took over the rugby program, and he built Selwyn House into perhaps the strongest rugby school in Montreal. In 1975, the next year, Julian co-captained the rugby team, led the team in points, and became the first winner of the Martin Borner Trophy, awarded to the senior rugby MVP. Julian excelled at football too. Playing quarterback or running back, he captained the school team 3 years consecutively and was named the most valuable player in each season. In other sports, Julian was enthusiastic, but perhaps not as talented at all the others. He was a steady, effective right winger on the Bantam junior and senior hockey teams. He has the distinction of being bundled over the boards by an opposing forward at a senior game at LCC. And as Jim's going to tell you, Julian's foray into wrestling lasted less than one round. Julian combined his athletic skill with a host of other accomplishments. At every prize giving, he went up and down to the podium with annoying frequency, and he was a skilled debater. He made all this look effortless, which was just as well, because he was notorious for hating any type of conditioning or road work or training. One night before a sevens tournament, I called his house. Dr. Heller answered and said, "Oh, Julian's just left on a training run." I hid my surprise and said I'd call back later. And Dr. Heller said, "Well, don't worry, don't call back too late. He'll be right back." In closing, I'll tell you about another kick Julian made. At a certain point in the Jewish wedding ceremony, the groom strikes down with his foot to break a glass on the floor. At his wedding, Julian missed the glass on his first attempt. Unlike in rugby, though, you get a do-over, and Julian struck home his second try. And in that kick, Julian won an even greater prize: marriage to the wonderful Ronnie and a life with their 3 fantastic kids. Julian, your admission to the Sports Hall of Fame is richly deserved, not just for your excellence at sports, but for your role on the team that showed us at long last how to be winners. And the school has never looked back since then. Congratulations.
Julian, Wallace, Quantz, the 2 Goodalls, and I played for the senior rugby team. Finally, in 1974, the curse was broken. Selwyn House won the GMIAA Senior Championship, thanks to Julian for those great kicks. I have played so many rugby games with Julian for the Quebec Juniors, Seniors, touring teams like Knethley from Wales, the Westmount, under-21 Colts. We were so powerful that in the league, they just folded the next year because they didn't want to get killed from us. And you'll see in the picture, those are 4 of the people from the Colts team. He is a great athlete. Football, rugby, track, everything is a challenge for him. But I would have to use the word nanosecond because that describes a fight against Julian and Chris Asselin in the house tournaments. One rugby day that stands out in Julian's memory is the summer of 1982. We assembled one of the most powerful 7-a-sides Selwyn House team for the Montreal Irish 7-a-side tournament. Eric Stevenson, Andrew Nemec, Julian, Eddie Heath, Alex Galt, Tommy McFarlane, who was 16 years old, and myself. We were placed in the B division, which we won handily. The French team from France, visiting team, prestigious Stade Rochelet. They won the A division immediately, and they had 3 capped internationals on their team. The old boys challenged the French, to which they agreed. In the ensuing hard-fought match, the old boys held at halftime. We were ahead of everything except for at the last try we lost. They had 6 players at halftime that got switched, so they were in better shape than us. Now you can call your newly elected Sports Hall of Fame Julian, or Jules, or the Jewel for the school. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
I'm deeply honored to be inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame. Thank you to the coaches, teammates, classmates, and schoolmates, friends and family, and the entire Selwyn House community. And thank you, of course, to my nominators, great friends, and great teammates. As someone who started here at the school in grade 1 and graduated in grade 11, I am in so many ways a product of this school. But tonight we honor not just me and my fellow inductees, but that part of the school outside the classroom, on the fields, in the rinks, in the gyms. The Battle of Waterloo was won on the playing fields of Eton, is a quote attributed to the Duke of Wellington about his 1815 victory over Napoleon. Eton is a privileged British private boys' school, not Eton, the erstwhile Canadian department store featured in the famous hockey sweater story. What can that possibly have to do with tonight, or Selwyn House, or any of you in 2021 as you head out into a post-COVID world, having lived the last 1.5 years in a zombie apocalypse with your life on a series of video screens? Well, put simply, the experiences, joys, and sadness of your time from ages 14 to 17, and the relationships forged with teammates and classmates, teachers and coaches, administrators, are all carried with you into adulthood. So what story can I share with you to capture the sense, capture the hope, and sense of success that is also real and hopefully enduring? I have been fortunate to play with great teammates and have great coaches here at Sullivan House, at Princeton, McGill, and for Quebec and Montreal teams, including Westmount Rugby Club. But the most significant story for tonight, and really the reason I am being honored tonight, is my role in the first Sullivan House School GMIAA championship ever. Spring of 1974, not quite 1815, but almost. I was in grade 10. I was 16 years old. A young Peter Govan had asked me to play wing forward on the senior rugby team. As a grade 10 student, this was not usual, but I said sure if that is what he thought best. Fast forward to a rainy Saturday morning in May. I leave my house on Arlington Avenue to walk the 10 minutes to school, the same route down Côte Saint-Antoine that I had always taken since grade 1, for a bus ride to Verdun Stadium to play our rugby arch rival Lindsay Place for the city championship. I had my cleats, which I had carefully polished the night before. In pre-game warm-up, as the kicker, I took my practice kicks in the usual order, from left to right, as I always did and always continue to do throughout my rugby career. Late in the 0-0 game, our number 8, Chris Asselin, scored a try in the far right corner. Rugby players and fans will know that that meant the conversion was to be taken from the sideline, a difficult angle at any age. That swing of my right leg and the sweet end over end, slightly looping arc of that ball as it slid smoothly to the left of the right goalpost was perhaps the most graceful, perfect single step of my entire athletic career. The score stood 6-0 with only minutes to play. The sporting fates were not done with us though, and Lindsay Place soon scored under the posts and made the easy conversion to tie the game 6-6 and send us to sudden death overtime. A penalty against us in overtime gave Lindsay Place a chance to win. Their kick went wide left. An offside penalty against Lindsay Place, awarded by the referee Dave Hardy, who later became my coach at McGill, gave us a kick from 25 yards out. The ball was swollen by now and quite heavy. To my right, on the sideline, the girlfriend of one of their star players, standing there in her pink raincoat, screaming at me to miss. To my left, I checked to see that my teammates were behind the ball. I saw our prop, Martin Borner, staring straight ahead, ready to follow the ball in case I missed. I remember thinking, I guess he thinks I'm going to miss. I'll have to set him and the girlfriend in the pink coat straight. My kick was a thud of a kind of line drive, but it was straight and cleared the bar for the win. Martin Borner rushed towards me with the biggest grin, his arms raised in the air. Before I knew it, I was actually aloft on the shoulders of the players and fans who streamed onto the field. I quickly dismounted to join my teammates in celebration. Then there was actually an interview with the Montreal Star newspaper sports reporter. I remember it like yesterday. The next day, I even got a headline. Heller boots Selwyn House to first GMIAA title. Of course, that team was led by some fierce and talented athletes. David Smith and Bill Chambers, to name two. I was just a kid on their team. But man, pretty nice feeling for a 16-year-old, and a great feeling for the school as a whole. The next year, our grade 11 year, my classmates and I hoped to repeat. In a semifinal at Westmount Park to advance to play Lindsay Place again, it was not to be. A 12-10 loss in which everything that could go wrong went wrong, including a conversion attempt from the right-hand sideline from a puddle, which hit the right goalpost, leaving a mud ball mark as a stark reminder for days after. More consequentially that year came news that Martin Borner, whose shining face had greeted me in exultation the year before, had fallen off a mountainside to his death. The Martin Borner Trophy is given to this day for the best rugby player on the senior team. Great and fun things happen. Joy is to be savored. Hard and sad things also happen. They too must be dealt with and acknowledged. But in doing those joyous and celebratory things together, and facing and enduring the hard things as well, we do it together. That is what sports and teammates and family and friends can do for each other. In rugby, you follow the ball carrier, and because you only pass backwards, it is crucial that you tell your teammate that you are there. And you do so by shouting that you are in support, the words, "with you." There is often a lot going on, and repeated shouts of "with you" allow a split-second pass to reach safe hands. So, to Selwyn House student athletes and the Selwyn House community, and all of my cherished teammates at all levels, thank you for being with me, not just tonight, but always. It has been and continues to be an honor, and I will always be with you. Thank you again for this great honor tonight. I look forward to celebrating in person with you all sometime soon. Have a great evening.
In 1983, I got the opportunity to work at Selwyn House. The legendary Rob Waring hired me to teach physical education at the elementary school, teach a little history, and to coach the senior football team on defense. I had huge shoes to fill, those of the monumental Eddie Heath. And at that time, there was a veteran team in place. I was quite concerned and had to figure things out. I came with no real agenda. I wasn't sure I was going to have a job, and I had to put a package together real quickly. The fortunate thing for me is that these two players, the inductee for tonight's Hall of Fame and the defensive captain, Mr. Eric Blatchford, were very good to me as a young teacher and coach. They embraced my philosophy, they validated what I did on defense, and they made it easy to become part of the Selwyn House family. So it is a privilege for me to tell you that this relationship has measured the time, and we have been friends ever since. This evening is a privilege for me to introduce the 1983 co-captain on defense, Eric Blatchford, to say a few words about his good buddy and our 2021 Hall of Fame inductee.
Hi everyone, my name is Eric Blatchford, and I feel honored to have been asked to introduce Hagen Maynard as he joins the Selwyn House School Athletic Hall of Fame. Hagen was a classmate of mine, part of the great class of 1984, several of whom I'm sure are watching this call. And he's still one of my best friends. Hog was a great athlete at SHS. He wrestled, he played basketball and rugby at the highest levels, but he saved his most impressive performance for the football field. He was a linebacker without equal, kind of a heat-seeking missile in the backfield. After Sellenhouse, he went on to play for a McGill-Redmond team that won the Vanier Cup. And after that, he attended training camp with the Ottawa Rough Riders, where only a lingering knee injury kept him from playing in the pros. The guy is simply one of the best athletes ever to come out of the school. Now, okay, we all know that sports is more than just performance. It's not just what you do out there, it's how you do it. Sometimes it just comes down to leadership. And Hagen demonstrated that again and again. Now, his methods were sometimes a little unconventional. Now, I'll never forget our grade 11 rugby tour to Toronto when we were nervously lacing up our cleats in a locker room in Oakville. We were about to play Appleby, who at the time had not just grade 12 on us, but also grade 13. So we were scared, and it was dead silent in there. So Hagen sees we need something to loosen us up, right? I guess we must have had our travel bags in the room with us, because the guy walks across the room, he rummages around, and he pulls out a boombox. Some of you will remember what a boombox is. Cassette tape, the 2 speakers, the whole deal. And, we're all watching, obviously, wondering, what's the guy up to now? Well, he hits play. And it's Madonna. Oh, yeah, it is. He cranks up the volume, and he does a little dance. A little rugby hit. I can still picture it, Hagen up there, like a virgin. Well, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it worked. It broke the tension. We laughed, we high-fived, we did a cheer, and we followed him out the door, ready to face whatever we had to face. I don't remember if we lost the game. I don't remember if we won the game. I'm sure some people watching this do, but at this point it doesn't matter. Because what I do remember is my friend Hagen rising to the occasion, finding a way to motivate his teammates when they needed it most, and understanding that humor can be the antidote to fear. Yeah, that was 37 years ago, 1984. If you graduated in the 70s or 80s, you remember the old Wide World of Sports opening, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Well, we had the thrill of beating Loyola for the league football championship in 1982 when those buggers already had their victory party planned. And we had the agony of losing a GMAA rugby final just because LCC had a guy who could kick. And the truth is, high school sports aren't really about winning and losing, right? They're about building character and resilience. They're about learning to trust that your teammates have your back. Well, on the field and off the field, for all these years, nobody's had my back like Hagen. And I know there's so many others watching this right now who feel exactly the same way, including his wonderful daughters, Sienna and Mila. Look, the guy could read a draw, he could bat down a ball, he could take out a quarterback. But when I think of Hagen Maynard on the field, I think about his character and his compassion and his respect for all his teammates and his opponents. And that is why I'm so proud to introduce him as the latest inductee into the Sellenhouse School Athletic Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I just want to say how honored I am to be inducted into the Sellenhouse Athletics Hall of Fame. I really want to thank my parents for sending me to Sellenhouse. I guess something I want to touch on today is the subject of mentorship. At Selwyn we had 4 great mentors as far as my friends were concerned, people we really looked up to. They were real life examples of people that we wanted to be. That group was headed by Rob Waring, Eddie Heath, Peter Govan, and Mike Morovich. When I first saw Rob Waring in the early 1970s, he was walking down Argyle Street. He was wearing sweatpants, Ottawa Rough Riders t-shirt, long hair, scruffy beard, didn't look like the prototypical Sellenhouse teacher. And I looked at him and I noticed that he looked a lot like the covers of my mother's romance novels, the Harlequin romance novels, and I said, I want to be that guy. Like, who at that age wouldn't want to be Rob Waring? Years later, when I got drafted by Ottawa, and I was putting on my Ottawa Rough Riders t-shirt, and I had the long hair, a little bit of scruff going. Said to myself, thus I've become Rob Waring. So pretty happy about that when that happened. I really have Mike Morovich to thank for that as well. He pushed me to continue playing football after Sullivan House. It was also a thrill to play football at McGill with some of the Sullivan House up-and-comers, including the aforementioned Paul Roman. There was Jason Sedillis, who went on to have a great 100-yard catch-and-run play against Concordia, and I was able to witness that. Regret not being able to play with Doug Naughty, who went on to become an All-Canadian and is also in the Hall of Fame. He was injured my last year. Thought we would have been a dynamic duo on the corner, outside linebacker and cornerback. And as well, it was great playing with Mike Penner as well. Missed out on McKinnon, the quarterback, but it was just great to see Sullivan House so well represented at McGill. And again, this had everything to do with Mike Morovich and Rob Waring. When I first arrived at McGill, another mentor figure entered my life. His name is Wayne McRae. And he taught me something very important. Well, I already knew this, but treat others the way you want to be treated. As one of the defensive captains, he came over to me on the first day of practice, welcomed me to the team, and just set a really good example of what a captain should be and what a person should be in life. So I drew some lessons from him, and so I also really want to thank Wayne. So thank you, Wayne. And I guess it was around my third or fourth year at McGill, there was a televised game we were playing against Bishops. All my friends were cheering me on from the stands, as well as Paul Roman, who was playing on the field alongside me. And there was a TV timeout, and I looked around. It was kind of a scene out of The Natural, where I was standing on the field waiting for the signal to come in from Mike, as I was the defensive signal caller. And all I saw was him, the sun shining on him, and I wondered if I'd ever get the opportunity to thank him for putting me in the position that I was in. So here it is. Mike, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate everything you've done for me. This wouldn't have been possible without having you in my life. And for that, I'm really, truly thankful. You know, we're talking about mentors. Not only were those the group of four, but they were also my friends, Eric Blatchford, you know, Tom McFarlane. Who didn't want to be Tom McFarlane in high school? He was the quintessential athlete. There was Paul Roman, Mike Kapomposis, Rob Drummond, Andrew Seeley, Karim Nader, Brent Sheldon, David Doyle, all great athletes. And these are all guys who inspired me to become a better athlete. And I want to thank those guys as well. And you know, I often talk about the circularity of life. And you know, now it's my kids. And I have another friend in my life, Marco Scandella, who's gotten me back into golf. So kudos to you for renewing my competitive spirit. But I look at my kids now, and they are miles ahead of where I was at that age. And they're an inspiration to me, and they're setting a great example for me now. And they continue to make me want to be a better person. And they don't even know it. So I want to thank them for that as well. So I think I'll end off there. Thanks to all, and have a great night. Thanks.
First of all, I'd like to take a minute to congratulate our three honorees tonight, Julian Heller, Hagen Maynard, and Sean McKinnon. They're obviously very good athletes, but above all else, they're good guys. Congratulations, very well deserved. Let me tell you about David McKinnon, who has been asked to induct his brother Sean. Dave showed up at Sullivan House in the fall of 1992. He immediately made an impact on our athletic program. He was a starting quarterback of our varsity football team for 3 years, in grade 9, 10, and 11. He brought an intensity to the team that we needed, and in grade 10, he led us to our biggest football win perhaps ever, but at least over the last 31 years. We beat Carlson at the Dam 37-26 to win the Juvenile City Championships. Dave went on to Choate Rosemary Hall in the U.S., and then started at quarterback in his freshman year at McGill. In his time at Selwyn, he was also a leader on our basketball and rugby teams as well, and was inducted into our Athletic Hall of Fame 2 years ago. I had the pleasure of both coaching and teaching Dave. He was also a solid student, a prefect, and a leader in the hallways. I always like to say that our number one job is to graduate good guys who work hard. Dave is a perfect example of this. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. David McKinnon.
Headmaster Downey, Coach Morovich, teachers, parents, and students. Hello from Singapore. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to tell you a little bit about my younger brother, Sean. Growing up, Sean and I were involved in a variety of sports from a young age, be it organized sports within the school or the city, or pick up baseball, basketball, hockey at the park. One thing our parents made clear very early on was that as brothers, we were to motivate and support each other. There was no room for any kind of toxic sibling rivalries. We were to be each other's greatest fans, and we were. We truly were. But even though we happily celebrated each other's success, I'd be lying to you if I didn't admit that when one of us did something well, it lit a fire under the other. So, I'm 3 years older than Sean, and even though you could never tell now that we are both in our 40s, that was a significant gap in our developmental years. Sean loved playing and competing against the older kids, especially in the less structured pickup games that tended to be a lot rougher. I think a lot of this interaction helped shape Sean and his personality and his characteristics going forward in life. And it was in those days, in those environments, when I knew that this kid was made of something different, something special. Work ethic. Sean has an incredible work ethic. Nobody has ever or will ever outwork Sean. He doesn't quit and refuses to fail. Academically, Sean was on the honor roll at Selwyn. He had a 90-plus average at Kent, academic All-Canadian in honors at Queen's, and honors in both his law degrees. He learned lacrosse in a few short weeks at Kent and started as a junior and a senior on varsity. And if you know anything about New England Prep School, lacrosse is a very big deal. He also was a starter in junior high at Sun Youth Basketball. Not a big deal. Leadership. Sean was a prefect at Selwyn. He won and was nominated for numerous awards and scholarships post-Selwyn, and he's been a captain on every team that he's played on. He was that rookie that vets loved, humble and hardworking, with a big smile. And as a veteran on the team, he was a mentor and always had time for the younger athletes. As an athlete, Sean was an intelligent player, technically superior, his footwork, his route running, and he excelled at the intricate details of the position and at the game. Film study, pre-game analysis, preparation, his information processing skills, pre-snap reads, dynamic reads. The one part of Sean's game that he didn't get enough credit for was his game speed and his quickness. Sean was fast. The part of his game that I respected the most was his courage. Those of you who've played contact sports know exactly what this word means. Sean's willingness to lay out for passes, put his body on the line, that was something that I really admired. Players that you could easily compare Sean to are Julian Edelman, Heinz Ward, Wayne Crabette, and Terry Vaughn. Sean's post-Selwyn athletic career was fantastic. He was able to take his talents abroad, where he played on some very strong teams and with some very skilled athletes. And he was able to see the world while doing it. He played football in the US at Kent with the Hurricanes in Denmark. He played rugby in Sydney, Australia while interning at the National Bank at NAB. And he played for the Golden Gales in faraway Ontario. Everywhere Sean played, they won. And he was a big moment player. He somehow always found a way to elevate his game when it mattered the most. There were two games or two moments in particular that I witnessed firsthand I'd like to tell you about. One was Queen's versus Western in the semifinal. It was a typical Canadian University playoff game. Big, thick, slow-falling snowflakes. It was a really tight game. The stands were packed at Queen's. And Western had a cornerback that was touted as a high CFL draft pick, an all-star, and just a shutdown guy. and they put him against Sean for most of the game. In the second half of the game, the score was very, very close. Sean caught a quick slant and then took off. He blew by everyone, and he ran the length of the field. The crowd erupted at Queens. Everyone was jumping up and down. I was standing next to my mother, and all I could do was tell everyone around me that that was my brother. They went on to win the game, and of course, Sean, before scoring that touchdown, dove across the goal line and became the highlight of the night that night and the next morning on national television. Classic Sean. The second one was in European football, the European final in Denmark. Now this league was very good. They had players that had been with the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They had guys on the Olympic program in hurdling and sprinting. There were also some very big boys and some very big collisions. In the final game, I was standing on the sideline behind the play, so I watched it all develop. Sean was the quarterback, and he scrambled to his left, and he took off downfield. And he ran for the corner, that left corner of the end zone towards the pylon. And right before he got there, the corner stepped up and the safety got there too. And just as they were about to hit Sean, he jumped and they caught his knee. And Sean was helicoptering through the air. And all of the fans that were just behind, I could see them, mouths open. They stood with their hands on their head in total disbelief as Sean touched the pylon and scored. It was definitely the coolest play they had ever seen live in American football. Classic Sean. Sean, congratulations on an incredible run. Your achievements are beyond impressive, and your success well-deserved. Headmaster Downey, Coach Morovich, teachers, parents, and students, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Sean McKinnon to the Selwyn House School Athletic Hall of Fame. Sean?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start out by pointing out the obvious. Habs Leafs, Game 5. And here you are, stuck watching me. I get it. I would not want to be watching me either. But here we are, so I'll try and get through it as quickly as possible and get you back to the game. I want to start out by saying it's a privilege to be receiving this award alongside Julian and Hagen. Both have had exceptional athletic careers, and congratulations to you both once again. I'd also like to say it's pretty cool to be receiving this honor and be part of a group of guys that I always looked up to as a younger student. Guys like Chris Gayton, Ben Waring, and even my brother. This is a pretty special honor for me. I'd also like to say congratulations to all the student athletes that are here tonight. Being a student athlete in any sport at Selwyn House and representing the school is an accomplishment by itself. If you bear with me, I'd like to cover off a few things tonight. I'd like to start off by thanking the people that were meaningful to me in getting this award, my family, my teammates, my coaches, and then I would like to express what Selwyn House has meant to me personally. First off, I want to start by thanking my family. I was very lucky to have supportive and engaged parents who encouraged me all the way along the way. Growing up in St. Bruno meant that I had to deal with a pretty hefty commute on a daily basis. My parents sacrificed both financially and personally to send both me and my brother to Selwyn House. I'd like to start out by giving a special shout out to my mom. She sacrificed a lot of her time, including relentless driving to and from Selwyn or Sun Youth, so I could play for a bunch of different teams in a variety of sports. Although she didn't coach me on the field, she was always my personal life coach for everything else. She never let me give up and would sacrifice her time to give me the opportunity and support I needed to succeed. Given that we lived in the South Shore, I'd always get home late after practice, have a late dinner, and would have to start my homework around 9 or 10. She would always stay up late, make me tea, and somehow coax me to get my work done when all I wanted to do was sleep. As a parent of 2 young kids, I can't imagine how challenging it would have been for her, and she definitely deserves a standing ovation right now. To my father, he always valued education and wanted to be the best for me and my brother. He saw Selwyn House as an opportunity to give us the best chance to succeed, and he was right. My experience at Selwyn House has led to the opening of many doors that would have otherwise been shut. He always said that he wanted us to be both book smart and street smart, to feel comfortable in any setting, whether it be the Upper Westmount folks or people of much humbler circumstances. And this is always a valuable lesson and has always served me well to this day. To my brother Dave, he's always been a source of leadership and guidance to me. Growing up, despite being 3 years older, I had the benefit of tagging along with my brother and following his lead. He toughened me up, brought me along with his friends as we played football or baseball in our backyard, or the many epic street hockey battles we had on our street. It didn't matter that I was the younger guy. Everyone treated me as part of the group, and that gave me confidence that I could play with anyone. I think this really helped me as an athlete and as a person. Dave always set the standard for me to follow, and as a very competitive person, it forced me to be better at everything because of him. Whether it's Selwyn House, prep school, university athletics, I always followed in his footsteps. Today is just another example of this, as he was inducted into the Hall of Fame back in 2019. My wife Chantal supported me since we started dating over 20 years ago at Queen's. Despite not having any like for football, she came to every single one of my games and even joined me on my European excursion. We have 2 amazing kids, Meta and Lachlan, so a special shout out to them as well. Now on to the coaches. Of course, I owe a lot to the athletic department at Selwyn House. I truly appreciated the leadership that was provided me by all the coaches, namely the Downey brothers, Mr. Govan, Mr. Waring, Mr. Boyle, Mr. Paletti, and of course, Coach Moravich. Coach Moravich has had a huge impact on my career. He was instrumental in getting my brother to attend and then subsequently led me to go into Selwyn House and then Kent afterwards. Having a university level coach at the high school level was a significant advantage for Selwyn House and allowed me to continue to develop as a player. Coach Moravich has always been available for my calls since graduating and even provided guidance for my nephew as he was considering his boarding school options. Coach Paletti. Coach Paletti is a very passionate coach, and he shared the same fire that I did. Needless to say, he did a great job of keeping my attitude in check. I had Coach Colin Boyle for 3 years as my midget basketball coach. 3 years in midget, you say? Well, given that I played city ball with Sun Youth, I had to play up a level starting in the 8th grade, which gave me that extra year. Coach Boyle was a great technical coach. He really focused on the fundamentals, and we actually won a city championships in my first year with the team. Coach Boyle was well ahead of his time when it came to the analytics game and tracked every single stat. Given that I was one of the few athletes to play midget for 3 years, you would think that my wholesome records, but I'm pretty sure the only record that I ever held, and probably still hold to this day, is the record for most turnovers. Finally, I'd just like to throw a shout out to all of my teammates at Selwyn House. I've created lifelong friendships while I was at the school, and a good majority of these friendships were my teammates in all the sports that I played. Truly, I have some lasting memories with all my teammates from my time at Selwyn House. So now I'd like to just quickly run through a couple thoughts on what Selwyn House has really meant to me. As I mentioned previously, I came in from the South Shore in the footsteps of my brother to begin Selwyn House in grade 7. I knew through his experience that it was going to be a difficult journey, and I had to put my best effort to succeed. Selwyn House has had a significant impact in shaping who I would become. I'd like to think that I was a humble kid, but as I say this, I'm pretty sure that you'll hear a lot of chuckling from the faculty who coached or taught me. I was definitely not lacking confidence. I had a drive and passion to win, and I was extremely competitive. Let's just say that during my time at Selwyn, winning wasn't always in the cards. Although athletics was a huge part of the experience, it wasn't necessarily what we were known for. We were always extremely well coached, and we were competitive because of that, despite any shortcomings that we might have had athletically. We were taught how to compete as a team, how to play within a system. We may not have been a championship caliber team from an athletic standpoint, but we would work together, be tough competitors no matter the opponent. This really taught me about being humble, leading by example, being a team player and trying to work with your teammates to elevate everyone's game. I think this is true in life. You need to learn to pick yourself up after a tough battle, get ready for the next obstacle, and work as a team to overcome it. As I'm sure many of you have experienced, Sullivan House isn't always an easy journey. It's a school that demands a lot of commitment, but it really does prepare you for life after Sullivan. I remember long days. I remember always being tired. Living in St. Bruno and commuting to school every day meant leaving the house at 6 or 6:30 in the morning to beat traffic, catch a bus to Longueuil Metro. It was always a long day. I remember sneaking naps in the crash pads and the Macaulay Gym grandstands so I could catch up on sleep in between periods or even in the morning. Then getting home at late, doing my homework, and having to do the whole routine over and over again. Time management became something that I had to learn at a very young age, and that's something that gave me an edge as a university player playing football and now in my career with my family. It's an opportunity and a privilege to go to Sullivan House, and it's one that not everyone is lucky to get. One day on the way home from school, my dad dropped me off at Sun Youth and told me that I was going to play for the basketball team, or at least try out. This was a pretty good lesson for me. It really opened up my eyes to the opportunity that I had at Sullivan House and reinforced the concept that of teamwork and playing kids with different backgrounds to me. I remember really having to try and hide the fact that I went to Sullivan House. I was really embarrassed by the fact that I went to a private school. I would finish school or practice, change out of my uniform before heading to the Sun Youth practice. One time I was panicked as one of my teammates saw me on a bus wearing my uniform. I thought I was done for, that I would lose the respect of my teammates because I went to a fancy private school. Turns out that being part of the team was all that mattered, and we were all on the same path to win together. We ended up winning the provincial championships as well that year. I guess I've always wanted to be a contributor. I think it's a value that is applicable in life, whether it's part of your family or in the business world. Everyone has a role to play, and it's very important to perform your duties so the whole team can succeed. This is definitely something that I learned during my time at Sullivan House. I guess I'll wrap it up now and just say thanks again for this incredible honor. I look forward to seeing everyone in person once the world opens up again. Thank you so much, and go Habs go.
The Sullivan House Sportsman's Guild is an honorary association established in 1976 for the purpose of extending recognition to individuals who have made truly outstanding contributions to the school's athletic program. Candidates for the election to the Guild are to be considered on the basis of success in team involvement, ability, coachability, overall enthusiasm, effort, sportsmanship, and setting a good example. Nominees are selected based on a point system in which all student athletes in grades 9 through 11 are reviewed by their coaches in regard to the aforementioned characteristics. Under normal circumstances, a candidate for the election to the Guild must be in grade 10 or 11. Although under truly exceptional circumstances, individuals from lower grades may be nominated. The guideline for the maximum number of students who, in any given year, may be elected to the Guild is 16. An individual may be re-elected from year to year. Each member of the Guild will have his name inscribed on the Guild's roll and will be entitled to wear the Guild's necktie. It gives me great pleasure to announce this year's nominees to the Sportsman's Guild. Daniel Bergevin, Dennis Dariotis, Jaden Edgehill, Dean Farias, Michael Feldman, Matthew Homa, Sebi Johnson, Marcus Lulich Deschanel, George Papadopoulos, Aidan Rowes, and Sean Vinn. And on occasion, the awards committee will elect staff members to the Guild. This year, I'm pleased to announce that we will elect both Mr. David Greer and Mr. Chris LaPearl. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Congratulations to all the award winners, and hopefully we'll see you later as we get together for a Zoom call at 8 o'clock tonight. Thank you and have a very nice evening.